Hey guys, make sure to like and subscribe, any support from y'all is appreciated. If you want me to post a specific manga or novel, leave a comment and I'll try my best. If the video is too fast or slow for your liking, then you can adjust it in the right corner of the video. My current goal is to hit 500 subscribers. The sound of the horn echoed throughout the whole District 3. This signal means that the enemies were coming. The archers poured their mana in their arrows before shooting it towards the area outside District 3. Swoosh. 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 The officers of the 7 deadly sins saw this and created a barrier around them to block the arrows. Countless arrows rained down on the field and the fighters watched this with a grave expression. They knew that they were going to fight these people after they passed through the arrows and spells. Eugen and Alice were observing this while preparing themselves for the fight. The other fighters were hiding in the houses waiting for the enemies to come. 200 meters. Eugen muttered as he silently channeled his mana in his sword. B-rank powerhouse like him and Alice were on the front line. Their strength was needed to hold back this powerful organization. Alice glanced at him and asked, "Yuko is going to help us, right?" "Yes." Lumilia said that she will let Yuko help us under Soda's order. Yukon nodded. After that, the mages charged their mana and launched countless spells. Various spells rained down towards the 7 deadly sins and it caused several explosions that shook the entire area. Boom. Boom. Smoke covered the field, but the mages and archers didn't stop at all. They continued to launch their arrows and spells. They were bombarding everyone. After a few moments, several people came out of the smokes. They were emitting a heavy aura around them as they charged towards the District 3. They were the 4 circle and 5 circle officers of the 7 deadly sins. 100 meters. It was then that the defensive mechanism activated. An array of spells appeared above the outskirts of District 3. Lightning crackled around and it tried to kill the officers of the 7 deadly sins. It was followed by a sea of flames and hailstorms. Boom. Several figures flashed towards the defensive mechanism and pierced it. It was so fast that the mechanism didn't have a chance to launch an attack on these people. "They are here," Lumilia said while watching the 7 people enter District 3 with a gloomy look. These 7 were 6 circle officers of the 7 deadly sins. They were at the level of people that attacked the Ibish village. The real challenge starts here. Everything will start at this moment. If they could hold down these people, then they could win. If not, then all of them will die. The 6 circle officers were releasing an aura that scared low-rank fighters on the front line. They were trembling as they know that those people in the sky could easily end them. They pushed themselves and drank potions that could temporarily increase their overall stats. After a few moments, all the B-rank fighters burst out of the houses and charged towards the 6 circle officers. Boom. Boom. "Use our number to fight these people," Lumilia said to her subordinate at the side. 10 people at one enemy and use wolf formation so that we could last longer. Also, tell the support to buff our ally and healers should cast healing spells to the B-rank fighter without stopping. The subordinate bowed before she left to pass her orders. The fierce battle started in the sky. Shockwaves were sweeping out every second. Boom. 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 5 circle and below officers arrived at District 3 after a few minutes. All the fighters below B-rank charged and clashed with the forces of the 7 deadly sins. "If you didn't use that form, then you would be dead by now," Randolph said while looking down at Soda. Huff. Huff. Soda has a large cut on his chest. Blood was flowing out of his nonstop. He realized that Randolph was much stronger than he showed in the past. No wonder he could keep Gregory all by himself for a few minutes. "Thanks, Saya," he said inwardly. If Saya didn't possess his body at that time, he wouldn't be standing at this place. "Don't underestimate this man. He's several times stronger than you," Saya said to him in a serious tone. Possession was activated as Saya forcefully used it to save him. So his current stats were stronger than before. He wouldn't be able to fight Randolph at his base form, so he didn't need to cancel the possession skill. He had to use everything that he got to defeat this man in front of him, starting with his basic skills. Cat speed, triple muscle strengthening, agility boost, strength boost. Soda felt his power getting stronger every second. He pulled out his sword and poured his mana in it. "I'll try my best to support you. Just leave your body open to me so that I could control you in dangerous situations," Saya said to him. "I understand," he replied to her while looking at Randolph. "Are you finished preparing? I wanted to fight you in your strongest form, so used all your skills," Randolph said as a faint smile appeared on his face. Soda frowned before he stepped forward and the ground turned black. Several black tentacles rose and it pointed at Randolph. Then, a black cloak formed around Soda along with the 10 gravitational balls. Shadow bind. Shadow cloak. Gravitational ball. He took another step and a black aura oozed out of his body. It mixed with the red aura of Saya, forming a stronger aura. Night Overlord's aura. All his darkness attribute spells and combat arts effectiveness will increase by 15%. Also, his stats will increase by 20% if it was nighttime. Unfortunately, it was noon so he couldn't use the full strength of this skill. Then, the black mist started to spread out in the surrounding area. Dark cloud hunting. He knew that blocking Randolph's vision wouldn't work, but the effect that he wanted in this spell was decreasing Randolph's speed and power. Also, the added stats to him. He was at his maximum form at this level. Ha ha ha, let's start the battle. Randolph laughed and pounced at Soda. He slashed the blade of mana in his hands towards Soda. Swoosh. Soda's eyes constricted as he found that Randolph was already in front of him. He quickly moved his hand and parried the blade using the Vajra sword. Clang. Brian was standing in front of CL.U.S.Ter while looking at the huge man wearing a red robe. The man was Kin and the comrade of Khan who fought Brando in the red light district. Kin smiled and removed his mask. He revealed his face to Brian and CL.U.S.Ter while saying, "Give that little girl to me and I wouldn't harm you." "No, I will not give her to you. I will protect CL.U.S.Ter. Brian replied as he stepped back, blocking Khan's vision of CL.U.S.Ter. "I really don't want to fight because of my class, but I guess that I have no choice." Kin sighed and he walked forward. His pace was increasing every second. Brian gritted his teeth and he gathered his mana in his fist. He wanted to enjoy fighting this guy, but his priority right now was CL.U.S.Ter. Protecting her comes first before his enjoyment. Swoosh. Kin arrived in front of him and threw his left fist at his face. Brian pushed CL.U.S.Ter away from him before shifting his body to the side to avoid his opponent's punch. Swoosh. Kin's punch was sharp that it cut his cheeks even though it only grazed him. "Hee hee, you're quite something, brat." Kin laughed lightly before he threw several punches. Bang. 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 Brian quickly moved his hand to block the punches, but some of it still managed to slip in and landed on his body and face. Flames appeared around his fist and he threw it at Kin's stomach. Blazing strike. Kin flew and crashed into the building. Bang. He glanced at CL.U.S.Ter and said, "Run away, go to the building and tell everyone what happened here. I'm sure that Soda and the rest will protect you." He knew that his attack didn't have that much effect on his opponent's tough body. "Brother Brian." CL.U.S.Ter looked at Brian with a pale expression. She understood what's happening. These people finally found her in this city. She had to go and leave, but she couldn't move her body. No, her body wouldn't listen to her. It wanted to stay and help Brian even knowing that it was futile. Boom. The front of the building exploded and Khan walked out of the smoke. He still had that smile on his face. In fact, his smile only grew wider. "Go, CL.U.S.Ter, Brian shouted as he focused his eyes on the opponent's movements. He was worried that CL.U.S.Ter might get caught up in the aftershocks of their battle. "What about you, Brother Brian?" CL.U.S.Ter asked while trembling. She was holding the stuffed toy that Brando bought for her. "It's no use. You wouldn't be able to escape against me," Kin said as he stepped forward. "After all, I'm in rank Berserker and you are only Brank. There's no way that you could fight against me." At the same time, liquefied mana burst out of his body and it flooded the entire area. "Prepare yourself," Kin said as he went around and dashed towards CL.U.S.Ter. Swoosh. He's going after CL.U.S.Ter? Brian looked behind him with wide eyes. It seems that Kin really didn't want to fight him, so he's going after CL.U.S.Ter. Berserker. It was a class that could influence the mind of a person. A person who chooses this class will become a battle maniac. They could also easily lose their sense of reason when fighting. The more the Berserker fight, the more it became stronger. Kin grabbed CL.U.S.Ter's neck and he took out something from his pocket. It was a small pipe at thumb size before it created a bluish rope that bound her limbs. Swoosh. Swoosh. Arg. CL.U.S.Ter groaned painfully as Kin tightened his grip around her neck. She subconsciously tried to remove his hands, but she was too weak to do so. "I can't breath," she muttered painfully. "I've completed my job. I need to get out of this place," Kin said, but a figure flashed at his side. WH. A fist containing enormous power landed on his face. It caught him off guard and it broke his tough defense. "Remove your hands from her," Brian roared as he punched Kin's face with his full power. Flames and lightning twisted around his fist and it blasted Kin away. Lightning Flame Dominion Smash. A wave of lightning and flame burst forth. The ground trembled heavily and the buildings were blown away before it disintegrated. Boom. Brian inhaled deeply as he looked at the destruction that he caused. A huge fissure was left in front of him. It was 200 meters long, 25 meters wide, and 5 meters deep. He turned his head to CL.U.S.Ter and asked, "Are you okay, CL.U.S.Ter? "I'm fine. Don't worry about me, Brother Brian." CL.U.S.Ter shook her head. She felt that she was about to cry at any moment. "This happened because of her. I'll help you remove it." Brian said as he grabbed the bluish rope and tried to remove it, but it was tough. This rope that was binding CL.U.S.Tear couldn't be removed by normal means. Suddenly, a voice sounded behind him. "You can't remove that rope." Brian and CL.U.S.Tear stiffened when they heard this voice. Both of them turned their heads and saw Kin walking towards them. The power of his punch was so strong, and he didn't think that this man could take it without suffering a single injury. That's how absurd the strength of rank compare to B rank. How? Is that what you want to ask? Kin smiled while stretching his body. It's true that the power of that attack exceeded that of a B rank, but well, as you can see, I'm not an ordinary rank. I need CL.U.S.Tear to get out of this place. But she wouldn't be able to move with these bindings, he thought while looking at the bluish rope. He wrapped his left hand around her waist. Kin's eyes turned red and he released his energy, creating a ripple in the air. Then, a black figure materialized behind him. It has the same appearance as him, but the one behind him looked like a demon. Rage manifestation. It was a high-level skill of a berserker. It raised the overall stats of the user by several folds, but it lowered the user's sense of reasoning. He will choose a target and will not stop. It will only stop until he defeated his target or he got defeated by his target. He roared and charged towards the two at extremely high speed. Boom. Brian's eyes constricted when he saw this. He quickly pushed CL.U.S.Tear away from him and a huge fist landed on his stomach at the same time. Bang. Kin continued to move forward and both of them crashed in the buildings, creating a huge hole in it. Boom. They didn't stop until they destroyed 10 huge buildings. Brian was slammed on the ground, causing a huge crater. Arg. He spat a mouthful of blood as he felt his ribs getting crushed by a heavy object. The power of that punch was stronger than he imagined. So this is a rank of berserker. At least, CL.U.S.Tear is safe, he thought, but he realized that until he defeated that person, CL.U.S.Tear wouldn't be safe. She couldn't move, so he had to defeat this person at all cost. Thud. The ground shook every time Kin took a step. GHH. Brian opened his eyes and he stood up. He looked at his opponent with a serious expression. Squeeze more power. Use everything that you learn in training. Gather more mana and compress it. Thick and dense mana covered his body. The mana around his body became stable and steady. It wasn't fluctuating. It felt as if it became armor that will protect his body at all cost. That's it. Grow stronger and let me crush you. Kin laughed and he dashed at Brian. Ah! Brian roared as his mana formed around his fist. He then threw it towards Kin. Boom. Both of their attacks collided and Brian was blasted away once again. He crashed on the ground, causing a deep pit. When he came back into his senses, he found that Kin was already above him. Swoosh. Kin tried to stomp his face, but Brian rolled on the side, barely avoiding the stomp. Bang. The ground collapsed and he fell on the sewer. It was dark, but it wasn't a problem with it. He bent his knees and charged straight on the surface. Boom. He didn't know that Brian was waiting for him. He received Brian's fist on his face. Ugh. He's damaging me? Kin smiled and he pulled back both of his fists before he launched a barrage of powerful punches. Bang. 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 But his fists landed on nothing. Brian was already behind him, throwing punches at him. Hee hee. His grin grew wider as he turned around to face Brian. His fist collided with Brian's fist, causing a huge gust of wind to sweep out in the surrounding area. Boom. Both of them were thrown away by the shockwaves. It didn't stop them from fighting as they dashed to each other once again. Bam. 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 Each time they threw a punch, shockwave would follow and destroy the buildings around them. Brian leapt in the air and widened his eyes. A huge fist was already in front of him. It was followed by a blow on his stomach. Kin then grabbed his head and threw him away. He then opened his palm and shoot a ball of energy towards Brian. Boom. Brian crashed on the building and the ball of energy landed on his body before it exploded. Arg. The building collapsed and fell on his small body. Boom. Smoke and dust spread out and covered the whole area. Brian felt that his body was getting heavy every second. His bones were crumbling as extreme pain hit his body. I need to defeat him. Blood was flowing out of his mouth and wounds in his body. He also felt that he had internal wounds. I want to win. He gritted his teeth and his mana seeped inside his body. It went in the cracks of his bones and strengthened it. His blood increased its circulation speed. His body was undergoing great change following his determined will. Acceleration. Kin sensed a dangerous feeling coming from that debris of rocks. He dashed forward and Brian burst out of it. This guy. He's getting stronger. AHHH. Brian roared loudly as he flew towards Kin. Swoosh. He could fly. That's the realm of. Kin found it ridiculous that this guy could keep up with him. His eyes turned bloodshot and he loses his sense of reasoning. He will fight Brian with of all his strength. Boom. Boom. Two figures collided repeatedly in the sky. One of the figures was blue whereas the other one was red with white linings around it. Bang! Bang! A loud explosion could be heard as the two figures continued to crash into each other. The aftershocks of their collision stirred the surrounding and the wind swept out like waves of water. The blue figure was Kin and the red figure was Brian, who was covered in his own blood. Don't stop. Keep going. Keep moving forward, Brian. A strand of Brian's hair turned red as his power broke its limit. One of his eyes changed its color into color red. He only had one thing in his mind, and that was to protect CL.U.S. Tear. He tightened his muscles as a few punches landed on his stomach and face. But he ignored it. He just kept moving forward while throwing his fist at Kin. Bam! 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 Arg! Blood splashed around the area as Kin suffered heavy injuries. Brian's attack was inflicting him this much damage? This puny B rank? He continued to receive the punches with his body. This guy was transforming to rank. No, that was not the case. His brute strength was reaching the height that he couldn't achieve even though he was a berserker. A barbarian. Kin roared as his power gathered in his fist. I want to have the power to protect everyone. I will. Get stronger. AHHH. Brian's fist collided with Kin's fist. Boom. Ah. Brian roared as his fist landed on Kin's body and Kin's punch landed on his face. More. More power. Flames and lightning burst out of his fists and it slammed Kin's body. It was followed by sharp winds. The three elements twisted around and fused together, creating an intense reaction that distorted the space around them. Ohm. The fluctuation of the fused elements caused ripples in the whole district. It twisted the entire red light district and the whole place turned upside down. The buildings were thrown in the sky. Boom. Flames, lightning, and wind spread out like a spider web. The energy reached the peak as could be seen by NAKED eyes. 3 different colors of mana bombarded the red light district. It expanded before it compressed around Brian's fist. Ohm. Once again, Brian smashed his fist and the 3 elements exploded the moment it touched Kin's body. Kin tried to block it with his hands, but his hands quickly turned into ashes. He was stunned when he saw Brian's power. Boom. The compressed energy slammed his body and he was blasted towards the District 3. A powerful outburst of energy occurred in District 4 and it eradicated half of it. But the aftershocks of the explosion broke the entire district. The people who were fighting the forces of the 7 deadly sins in District 5 stopped moving as they felt the fluctuations of energy. The red light district was part of the District 5, so they clearly felt the huge wave of energy that erupted in that area. Boom. They saw the buildings were thrown in the air and the 3 elements spread out like roots in that place. They were shocked and stunned at the same time. The phenomenon that was happening in that place was extraordinary. After a few moments, an explosion occurred above it and it went to District 4, destroying everything in its path. The 7 Circle officer frowned and said, "That's the Trinity Elemental Ray. Only people who had 3 and above affinities could use that skill. Although it was a powerful skill, it's still not enough to change the tide of the battle. That skill was weaker than the Trinity Elemental Ray that he saw in the past. The user must be an S rank or an rank powerhouse. That level wasn't a problem for him who reached SS rank." Suddenly, he felt that the family heads around him attack him at the same time. While he was distracted, they launched an attack on him. It was a good tactic, but he wouldn't fall down easily. Lumilia was casting spells to support everyone when the outburst of the 3 elements occurred. She couldn't help but turned her around and looked at District 5. It was eye-catching. The battle didn't have a barrier around them and it almost destroyed an entire district. Most of the people whose rank was high created a barrier around them to isolate their surge of power. Also, it was to avoid destroying the city. But the battle in that district wasn't protected by any barrier. She wondered who's the one fighting an enemy in that direction that forgot to create a barrier. Maybe that person was alone, so he didn't have comrades to protect the surroundings. She then shook her head and focused her attention on the enemies in front. The enemies were pushing the defense line. Every minute, the enemies would breach their line and enter the field. The entire battlefield was chaotic. She could observe the field with her eyes and the information that she received was insufficient. It wasn't enough to tell the true state of the battlefield. What should I do? Lumilia became anxious and the things in her surrounding. She was glancing at the time every second. 7 minutes. And the reinforcement will arrive. She glanced at the barrier in the sky and took a deep breath. It's time to dispel this barrier. It's do or die now. I hope I made the right choice. Huff. Huff. Brian was on his knees while breathing heavily. A large amount of blood came out of his mouth and splattered on the ground. He didn't know what happened to him, but he managed to defeat that man. The man who wanted to take CL.U.S. Tear away. Coo. His hands could not handle it anymore. He fell down with a loud thud sound. He didn't have the strength to move his body. He also drained his mana inside his body and couldn't produce it at the moment. He felt intense pain all over his body. It was like someone was drilling every part of his body. It was so painful, but he could ignore it before because his attention was focused on defeating Qin. But now, he could hardly handle this pain. CL.U.S.Tear. Brian muttered as he recalled that he had to see if CL.U.S.Tear was fine. The intensity of the battle was greater than he imagined, so he didn't know if CL.U.S.Tear was safe. He tried to stand up, but more blood flows out of his pores. Damn. Move. I need to find. Suddenly, he felt a presence at his side. He slowly moved his eyes and looked over only to find Khan carrying the unconscious CL.U.S.Tear in his arm. I came here to see what happened, but I didn't expect that you have the power to defeat one of our executives, Khan said with a serious expression. His body was injured and it seems that he didn't manage to escape the aftershocks unscathed. After he defeated Brando, he went towards them but found that the battle was intense. The shock waves from the two were affecting him and the buildings in the area. He had no choice but to defend himself, but Brian's last attack caught him off guard. You have a blood of barbarian in your veins, he muttered in a low voice as he glanced at the red strands of Brian's hair. Red hair and red eyes were an indication of a barbarian. It was a type of human that possessed overwhelming brute strength and vitality the moment they were born. It was the opposite of magical humans, which had incredible mana in their body just like the high elves. The powerful barbarians built a kingdom called the Barbarian Kingdom 100 years ago. Most of the barbarians lives in that place. It was a holy place for the barbarians on this continent. But from what he could see, Brian was not a pure-blood barbarian. He must be a child of an ordinary human and a barbarian. CL.U.S.Tear. Brian said as he tried to stretch out his hand. In his condition, he wouldn't be able to save CL.U.S.Tear, and he knew it. His vision was turning dark, and after a few moments, he lost his consciousness. He fainted. Khan muttered, and he glanced at the unconscious CL.U.S.Tear in his arm. It's unfortunate, but I have to leave this place as soon as possible. The scale of this battle already attracted the attention of those powerhouses. I need to hurry up. He quickly left the area and went to District 3. He needed to check if Qin managed to survive, but the possibility it was too low. Even in rank like Qin wouldn't able to defend against an attack of that scale. Although the explosion was large, the Trinity Elemental Ray still wasn't an O skill. It was a skill that focused on pure damage, unlike O skills which were focused on wide area damage. He could conclude that all the people in that place below rank were annihilated. Eugen, Alice, and other 5B ranks were fighting a 6th Circle officer. This was their tactic to hold the enemies in bay. For each 6th Circle officer, 10 high-level B ranks were dispatched to fight them, while one 5 Circle officer would be handled by 10 low-level promoted rank. And all of them were equipped with high-grade weapons and armors that further increased their chances of holding the enemies. They fully utilized their numbers as they used will formation to grind their enemies. It was a good strategy for holding their opponent. In Eugen's group, they only have 7B ranks including him, but it was enough for them. He used his spirit power to fill the lack of their numbers and buffed his allies, making them stronger. He didn't need to hide his power in a situation where he could die at any moment. TSK. Although we B ranks could hold the stronger ones, our overall strength is still below our opponents. Our comrades are dying every second. Eugen clicked his tongue as he glanced at the battles around him. The 4 Circle and below officers were killing their comrades below crank. At this rate, only them would survive before the reinforcement arrived. The 3 of you should go out and help our comrades, Eugen said to the 3B ranks. But with less number, you wouldn't be able to handle this level of opponent. Don't worry, we could handle it, Eugen said with a serious expression. Eugen inhaled deeply and nodded at his comrades. The 3B ranks nodded with a grave expression and said, "Fine, we'll leave this to you. I hope you can last longer." After saying those words, they quickly left and went to help their other comrades who needed their help. Bang! 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 Alice and the other 2B ranks were pushed back. Now that they don't have the support of the 3B ranks, they couldn't handle the power of the 6th Circle officer. Are you seeking death? Or maybe you're underestimating me? The 6th Circle officer asked in a cold tone. I never thought that I would be able to fight an opponent at this level this time. Eugen thought as he recalled the incident in the Ibish village. At that time, Soda drank 2 monster potions to hold the 6th Circle opponents. He was too weak and he could only support Soda by casting buff spells and heal some of his injuries. He didn't expect that he would fight those people once again in just a few months. It's all thanks to Soda that his strength grew to the point that he could damage this level of opponent. I'm really glad that I joined the Dark Oculus Legion, Eugen said as a smile formed on his face. What are you talking about? Well, I'll kill you, the 6th Circle officer coldly said before he charged towards Eugen. Swoosh. Alice and the 2B ranks quickly moved their body to intercept him. There's no need to hold back, Alfie. Let's do this, Eugen shouted and a small girl appeared on top of his shoulder. Yeah, let's do this, Jin. Alfie emitted a bright light as her energy burst out of her body. Secret technique, spirit synchronization mode. Alfie flew in the air and entered Eugen's body. Both of their energy fused together. A warm yet gentle energy swept out in the whole district and it healed the injuries of their comrades. What? The Sixth Circle officer was stunned when he saw this transformation. This is the purest form of energy. The spirit power. The injuries of Alice and the 2B ranks quickly closed as the gentle light covered their body. It enhances their overall strength and refilled their mana pool. Eugen tightly gripped the swords in both of his hands. The spirit power continued to flow in his body and it went towards the two swords, creating a bridge behind him. I'll surpass myself at this moment. All the spirit power inside Alfie's body was flowing through his body. She was in his mana pool and fused with it. The two of them were one. The spirit power that she emulated was being used, and this mode wouldn't last that long. 5 minutes. But this was enough for him as the reinforcement would arrive soon. Let's go, everyone, Eugen said as he charged towards the Sixth Circle officer and slashed his swords. Bang! Alice and the other 2B ranks followed him. Boom. 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 He exchanged blows with the Sixth Circle officers while his comrades were supporting him. After 10 seconds, he switched to Alice and he became a support. Alice just focused on attacking their opponent as she knew that her comrades would support her. Another 10 seconds had passed and she switches with the other rank. The B-rank brawler quickly moved in front of her and launched a barrage of punches. Alice backed away and quickly drank a mana potion and a health potion. It was to replenish her fighting power because she became the attacker once again. Bang! 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 Shockwaves were sweeping out as the Sixth Circle officer became furious. He couldn't believe that 4B ranks could push him to his limit. It's irritating. It's annoying. This happened because of this spirit user. He didn't expect that the spirit power was potent that could heal and buff almost everyone on the battlefield. It was his first time seeing a spirit user in his life, so it was surprising for him. This was out of his expectations. 4B ranks were fighting a powerful Sixth Circle officer of the infamous 7 deadly sins? It was hard to believe, but Eugen made it possible with his spirit power. The ancient power of the fairies. Everything should be gone by now, but the outburst of the 3 elements in District 5 to District 4 decreased their numbers to a certain degree. No one expected that a person with 3 elemental affinities aside from the city lord was in this city. Lumilia and the other leaders noticed the changes on the battlefield. Their focus unexpectedly became stronger, and the cause of this was the strange energy in the air. This power, is it Eugen? She thought as she felt the gentle energy. She knew that Eugen was a spirit contractor, but he hid it as a spirit couldn't be found any place anymore. She turned to her subordinate and said, "Tell me the state of the battlefield." "I'm sorry, Vice Commander. We can't determine the state of the battlefield. We lose contact with our subordinates that have the task to send a report to us every minute." The subordinate bowed her head as she reported what's happening to them. "You don't need to apologize. It seems that they deliberately target our people so that we would lose our grasp in the current situation of the battlefield," Lumilia said as she squinted her eyes. She wasn't sure what's happening in the front line in this chaotic situation, but it seems that Eugen and Alice were giving their best. It only means that the situation was worse, which forced Eugen to reveal his trump card. Lin, who was at her side, took a mana potion and drank it. While Lumilia was planning their next move, she was helping the other people by casting healing spells or buff spells until she drained her mana. Everyone was trying their best. "I need to try my best and break my limit," Lin said to herself as she clenched her fist tightly. She closed her eyes and recalled everything that happened to her in the institute. "Break the barrier," Lumilia said to her subordinate while looking at the thick layer of barrier in the sky. She could also see the huge crimson ball above it. She didn't have an idea what's the crimson ball, but she thinks that it was harmless. Also, it's been a while since the explosion above the barrier stopped. It means that the battle there is concluded. She didn't know who won, but she could guess that even if the enemy managed to defeat Teacher Bargain, they wouldn't be able to do anything in this battle. Why? Because Teacher Bargain was their opponent. They wouldn't be able to escape that man without receiving heavy injuries. Judging from the intensity of the battle before, she could estimate that those 7 circle officers weren't in a condition that could fight. Her subordinate passed her order until it arrived to the people in the city walls. In the operation room of the wall where the guard could monitor the walls, the city guards there heard the order from Lumilia. "Is it really okay to trust that woman?" one of the city guards asked. "What should we do? The city lord and other high-ranking officers are fighting on District 1. They don't have a time to command us with them fighting those powerful people," another city guard replied to him. "The reinforcement are coming, so we should follow her orders for a while." "Yeah, we have no choice. At least she's helping everyone." They turned off the device for the barrier. The energy source of the barrier stopped producing energy and several cracks appeared on its surface. Everyone inside the city noticed the changes on the barrier. They couldn't help but turn their head to look at it. Cracks spread out quickly in just a few seconds and it covered the entire barrier. After a few moments, the barrier was shattered and its fragments fell before it faded into thin air. Evacuate the civilians. Lead them out of the city. Lumilia ordered her subordinates. The 7 deadly sins were slowly coming towards them and their forces weren't enough to completely stop them. If they arrived here, then countless civilians would die. Tell our forces to slowly move back. We'll initiate the self-destruct mode of the defensive mechanism, she said in a cold tone. Bang! 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 Soda and Randolph exchanged blows at high speed. The ground and the buildings around them were demolished as the shockwaves sweep everything. The entire third-year area became a battlefield for the two. Almost every buildings were reduced to rubble and ashes. Even the ground beneath their feet collapsed as ripples of energy were distorting the air around them. The two collided once more, causing shockwaves in the area. Then, they retreated tens of meters away from each other. Soda looked at Randolph with a serious expression. He was using possession and every skill that he had, but this Randolph was keeping up with him. Randolph smiled and charged at him once again. The black mist around him couldn't block his vision. His figure flashed like a ray of light and arrived before Soda. He then swung the energy blade in his hand. Soda quickly reacted and blocked the blade using his sword. Then, he lifted his feet and launched a kick at his opponent's stomach, but Randolph saw it, so he managed to step aside and avoided the kick. Swoosh. You're good, Soda. I really wanted to fight you for a long time, Randolph said as he slashed his blade horizontally. Swoosh. Soda shifted his body to the side and thrust his sword forward. Well, it's not that I don't want to fight you. It's just that I will not get anything from fighting you. Stab. Randolph changed the direction of the sword by hitting it from below. He felt that even if he tried to block the sword, the force inside it would injure him. The armor penetration of stab skill was high, so he couldn't risk himself by taking it head on. Clang. After he managed to deflect the sword attack, Randolph raised his other hand and shoot a beam. Light penetrating beam. Soda knitted his brows tightly and slashed his sword. Crimson Moon. The two attacks collided and it caused an explosion in front of them. A figure quickly jumped in the midair and rushed at Soda. You're a genius. Your growth rate is so fast. If I fight you a few months ago, there's no doubt that I could easily destroy you at that time, but it's different now, Randolph said as his blade collided with Soda's sword. Clang. Your improvement is so fast. You actually gained the power to fight me in just a few months, he said as he continued to swing the energy blade in his hands. Clang. 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 Soda passively defends himself from Randolph's relentless attack on him. Black tentacles emerged from the ground, but the energy blade quickly cut it down in just a few seconds. Swoosh. Randolph looked ahead and found that Soda was gone. He stood straight and looked behind him. He found that Soda was standing 20 meters away from him. Shadow Ball, is it? Soda took a deep breath and asked, what are your objectives? My objectives? It's not my objectives, it's our objectives. Randolph turned serious as he looked in the sky. We want to break the shackles binding us. Simply, we just want to be free. Boom. He dashed towards Soda, leaving a trail of smoke behind him. Swoosh. Soda tightened his muscles as he gathered his mana in his sword. Boom. Both of them clashed against each other, generating powerful winds around them. Bam. 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 In just a few seconds, both of them threw 100 blows. Randolph's speed and strength vastly increased and Soda felt it. His arms were getting numb and a few cuts started to appear on his body. He's getting stronger. He couldn't block all of Randolph's powerful attack. The attack of a real rank A was beyond him. It's really hard to be free in this world. I'll tell you one thing. I'm not a genius like you. I'm an artificial one, Randolph said as he vanished and reappeared behind Soda. So fast? Soda sensed his presence behind him, so he turned around only to face a powerful kick. Boom. Arg. He flew a few dozen meters away before he rolled on the ground. Randolph leapt in the air as he chased Soda and arrived beside him before launching a kick at his stomach. Bang. Uck. Soda coughed a mouthful of blood and it splattered on the floor. He wiped the blood on his mouth as he stood up and looked at Randolph. What do you mean by artificial? He asked. I literally mean it. I'm not a human nor a demi. I'm a homunculus, Randolph replied to him. Soda widened his eyes when he heard Randolph's words. He couldn't believe it, but Randolph didn't have a reason to lie. A homunculus, an artificial living creature made from magic and science. It was hard to create a single homunculus as it needs a vast amount of resources and sacrifices, but the topic about homunculus was long gone from this world. Don't tell me someone continued this research. The players in the game couldn't even find a quest about the forbidden homunculus. Everyone thought that they were gone, but to think that Soda would find someone connected to it in this world. 30 years ago, The three great countries launched a great inspection in this continent just to find the researchers of the homunculus. They found and destroyed countless facilities throughout the whole continent which was conducting research about artificial creatures. Great cleansing occurred at that time and countless people who were involved in research died. The three great countries were fierce and anyone who tried to hide the research died. They deployed several god-level powerhouses to utterly destroy the higher-ups of some countries involved in this issue. Well, it was understandable as some leaders of large countries or small kingdoms were involved in this case, so the three great countries didn't have a choice but to send their god-level powerhouses to kill those people. For every homunculus, countless people will be used as an experimental subject. The three great countries wouldn't deem this research as forbidden if it didn't require human and demi sacrifices. Unfortunately, this experiment required to study the different types of human and demi's anatomy. At that time, countless countries kept silent as they were afraid of the overwhelming power of the three great countries. They simply allowed the agents of the great countries to investigate their territory. Deploying several god-level powerhouses was indeed a scary thing. Even if it was him in the game, he wouldn't be able to survive an attack from two or more god-level. So the three great countries didn't manage to completely eradicate this issue, and some of the people that survive in cleansing continued the research in hopes to complete the homunculus. Soda thought while looking at Randolph. Homunculus? What's that, Soda? Xianxia asked him with a confused expression as she didn't have an idea about homunculus. Soda calmly explained to her what he knew about homunculus. I'm saying this to you because I know that you're not the type of person who will walk around the city saying that I'm a homunculus, Randolph said as he turned to Soda, and a smile formed on his face. Suddenly, the ground shook heavily and a bright light flashed on the sky above them. It was so bright that it illuminated the entire Ladro Institute. Soda and Randolph couldn't help but cover their eyes. That's a Trinity elemental ray. Randolph immediately recognized the bright light outside the barrier. Soda recognized it too. They didn't know what happened outside the institute, but judging from this it seems that it's getting worse. They wouldn't be surprised if the entire city was demolished the moment they got out of the institute. Randolph shook his head and turned to Soda. Teacher Bargain's battle reached its conclusion and the battle in the city are close to climax. Teacher and the people he was fighting wouldn't be able to do anything. Teacher Bargain was sealed inside that giant red ball in the sky and his opponents were heavily injured to the point that they couldn't cast a single spell, he said while pointing at the sky. Soda knew what he was saying. Since the explosions above the city stopped, it only means that the battle has finished. So we need to hurry up and finish out battle 2. The second part of my plan will start soon, Randolph said. Second plan? He had another plan. Soda tightly knitted his brows. This was not his problem, but he had to get that barrier device to complete his quest. Randolph noticed that Soda was glancing at the barrier device in his hand. He raised it and said, "It seems that you really want to get this item. Is it really important for you to shatter the barrier that was protecting the Institute from the fierce battle outside?" "I don't care. I just want to shatter that thing in your hand," Soda replied to him. "Then get it," Randolph said before he threw the barrier device in the midair. Soda quickly moved his body as he dashed towards the barrier device. At the same time, the gravitational ball behind him spun around and black tentacles rose from the ground. From what he could remember, Randolph found himself inside a huge cylinder tube full of water. He was floating inside it. He didn't know anything, but a large data of information filled his mind at that time. Information about battle tactics, basic combat style, weapon master, history of the world, humans, demis, monsters, etc. Various knowledge was implanted in his head. It was a strange feeling. He wasn't supposed to know a single thing, but he somehow knew countless things. He didn't need to study and learn about language, as different languages were implanted in his head. People wearing white robes were doing various experiments on his body. He didn't need to think about what they were doing to him. He didn't need it at all. From all the knowledge inside his head, he knew that he wasn't a human, demi, demon, or monster. He was forbidden to do anything. He could only stay in his bed before those people arrived and conducted an experiment once again. He was also forbidden to go outside of his room. From his knowledge, he naturally knew about the cleansing that the 3 great countries did in the past. He doesn't belong to any of the people outside. Those people would kill him if they knew that he was a homunculus, but staying here was also bad for him. Experiencing countless painful experiments was too much for the mind of a child like him. But he wasn't an ordinary child. He was a homunculus, so he could endure. One day, he found that he wasn't alone. Yeah, there were other people like him. Other people that don't belong to any category in this world. A homunculus. A humanoid artificial living creature. It doesn't necessarily need to be a humanoid creature, as some of them have strange body shapes, but, for the researchers, they thought that humanoid was the perfect shape. He met the other homunculus saying that he would survive. A defective homunculus wouldn't last 1 year, but a normal one would have the same lifespan as humans. He would survive, that's what they said. It only means that he's not a defective homunculus. That's the reason why the researchers let him met the other homunculus. The other homunculus were older than him. They treated him as their young brother. They were kind to him unlike the researchers in the facility. Randolph came out of the experiment room. He saw children waiting for him outside the room. They were homunculus like him. "Are you okay?" A child that looked like him said. "NN. I'm fine, but the experiments are getting painful." Randolph nodded at him. They were his brothers and sisters. "I'm glad that you're fine," one of the children said. "I'm sure that the experiments will finish someday," another one said. "At that time, we would live together and everyone will not suffer from these experiments. It would be bad if we go outside, right? That's why we will find a place that we will call our home." The experiments continued every day. Randolph and his siblings experienced the same thing every day. "How are you today?" "The same as usual. It hurts though. It'd be great if the experiments end soon. What should we play today?" "Let's play hide and seek today." "Sure, I've mastered a secret technique to hide myself." "Ha ha ha. There's no secret technique." One day, the experiment became worse. One by one the people that he treated as his family died. Their body couldn't handle the extreme experiments of the researchers. It was hard for him, but one day he found that he was alone once again. All the homunculus except for him died. Really, there were just dispensable tools for the researchers. Randolph stood in the hall alone with a blank expression. His siblings died because of the experiments. "We have a dream, our home, but now, it's gone." He muttered in a low voice as he lowered his head and looked at his hands. "I know that we're expendable goods, but we should at least be allowed to dream. For the other homunculus like him, he will free everyone and build a place where they could live freely. Everything. Is it wrong for us to wish for a place we could call our home?" Randolph appeared in front of Soda and launched a kick. He then caught the barrier device using his hand. Bang! Soda flew away and crashed on the ground. Ugh. Even with all of his skills, he couldn't match this self-proclaimed homunculus. Possession could only give him the strength to keep up with him, but it wasn't enough to defeat Randolph. He needed more power. Should he summon Yuko and help him fight Randolph? But Yuko was helping Lumalia. She was helping some of the B ranks fight the Sixth Circle officer. If he summoned her, their information would break and the enemy would breach the formation of the B ranks. Then, his last choice would be the equipment skill of the universal artifact, Soul Blood Earring. Randolph appeared in front of him and Soda quickly slashed his sword. Crimson Moon. Randolph shifted his body and avoided the slash. He then grabbed Soda's wrist and threw him on the ground. Swoosh. Before Soda crashed on the ground, he vanished and reappeared 20 meters away from his opponent. Randolph was about to chase after Soda when the gravity around him tightened. "This is not enough to stop me." His mana burst out of his body, countering the harsh gravity around him. He then saw that Soda was gone. He quickly turned around as he sensed a presence behind him. But then a sharp blade was heading towards his neck at high speed. Swoosh. He raised his hand and caught the sword. Soda's eyes constricted when he saw this. He then felt a pain on his stomach as Randolph delivered a fierce blow. Bang! Rank A was really different from the rank below it. It was hard to close the gap, unlike rank C and rank B. The liquefied mana was many times stronger and tougher than his vast energy, even with the usage of possession. Also, Randolph wasn't using any powerful equipment like him. If Randolph used equipment or artifacts at orange grade, then we would suffer a defeat before they could even fight. "Tell me, Soda," Randolph shouted as he slashed the energy blade in his hand diagonally. Clang! Soda parried his attack and quickly launched at a kick. He activated the agility boost, strength boost, cat speed, and triple muscle strengthening, once again as he felt that the effects of these skills disappeared. "I don't care about that. I just want to break that barrier device in your hand," he spoke while blocking Randolph's fierce attacks. The Night Overlord's aura, Shadow Cloak, and Shadow Step didn't have a time limit. It will continue to consume his stamina and mana as long as it was activated. "Ha ha ha, you're really good. That's why." Randolph didn't manage to finish his sentence as cracks spread around the barrier of the city. The barrier? Soda stopped moving too as he looked at the sky along with Randolph. After a few moments, the barrier broke down into tiny pieces. The barrier. "It's time. I need to finish this as soon as possible," Randolph thought as he turned to Soda. He threw the barrier device above him and shot an energy ball towards it. Swoosh. "That's bad," Soda muttered as he quickly moved his body and blocked the energy ball. Boom. Arg. He received the energy ball and it exploded in front of him. "Do you want to destroy that barrier device, right? So why are you protecting it?" Saya asked him. "I want to be the one to destroy it," Soda responded to her question. The Saya in his mind tilted her head with a confused expression. What's the difference with that? After all, he wanted to break the barrier device to free the Institute. She couldn't understand him. His quest required him to break the barrier device, so it will be considered a failure if someone broke it other than him. That's why he will not let anyone destroy it. Soda stretched out his hands and caught the barrier device. I finally got it. This is a lot harder than I thought, and I discovered a lot of things, especially from Randolph. He muttered as he gathered his mana in his hand and crushed the barrier device. Crack. The barrier around the institute was shattered. Everyone looked at it and felt something wrong. Oi! What's the point of blocking that attack? I thought that will do something, but you just crush it. Saya's voice sounded in his head. Soda ignored her words as he looked at the system notification that popped up in his vision. Ding. Congratulations for completing the quest barrier. You've received 20,000 exp, 10 attribute points, and 8 skill points as your rewards. Suddenly, a light shone on the ground of the third-year area. The light looks like a giant magic circle from above. Ohm. Soon, the ground shook heavily and Soda felt tremendous energy was coming out of the ground. Boom. The entire third-year area was separated from the room as it started to float towards the sky. This is bad, Soda. This is a great sealing spell with the enchantment of a powerful sorcerer. So? A great being was sealed here and it will woke up. The ground shook heavily as cracks spread out and it separated the third-year area. Boom. Slowly, the entire ground started to float while the magic circle was shining brightly. Waves of mana were sweeping out of the whole city like a heartbeat. Thud. Thud. Yanagi, Mia, Rain, and the other people in the institute stopped fighting as they turned their heads and saw a shocking scene. An entire place moving upwards was absolutely stunning. It was like a floating fortress of the angel race. Thick and gigantic chains could be seen beneath the fortress, and it was connected to something deep underground. Dense energy was coating the gigantic chains. This energy could be seen by the NAKEDI. The power within it was so drastic that sparks made of mana flew out of it every second. The forces of Ladros City and the 7 deadly sins were shocked. None of them didn't plan this kind of development. Ufufu, what's happening to my Soda? Yanagi chuckled as she looked at the third-year area with interest in her eyes. The entire third-year area flew 500 meters above the surface as the barrier turned into tiny particles. What is happening there? Lumalia muttered in a low voice. She immediately regained her senses as she glanced at the expression of the 7 deadly sins. She saw that they were also shocked. It only means that they were not the reason of the floating land above the city. She recalled what Soda said to her before. Someone other than the 7 deadly sins is here. She forcefully shook her head and shouted, "Everyone attack. This is our chance to attack while our enemies are distracted." She wanted to know what's going on, but her priority was pushing back the enemies. She could only hope that Soda was safe. A person wearing a normal white shirt and black pants was looking at the floating land with an amused expression. He had short black messy hair and a pair of thick glasses. I came here to hear when I heard that the 7 deadly sins were going to attack this city, but I didn't expect this development. He muttered as he adjusted his glasses and observed the gigantic chains which were connected to the floating land and the place beneath the pit. Even I didn't know such thing was sleeping beneath this place. It seems that it came from the era before this current one. 1,000 years ago. Maybe much more distant than that one. He combed his hair behind his head and grinned. One could see a lion tattoo on the back of his palm. It was the symbol of Leo, one of the zodiac signs. I'll look closer to it. The zodiacs will appear once again and everyone will know our name. Everything is for my dream. I will make it true no matter what. A man with blonde hair came out of the underground of arena. He looked at the floating land with a serious expression on his face. He, a 6th circle officer of the 7 deadly sins, didn't know what's happening. Their plan was just to destroy this city, but this floating land was giving him a dangerous feeling. Someone is moving behind our backs, he muttered as a smile formed on his face. If he didn't have an important mission, he would go there and try to find who dared to disrupt their plan. He shook his head and looked at the red gems on his hand. These were the bloodstones that this city was protecting. His mission was to retrieve these stones and deliver it back to their lord. This was their real goal in attacking this city. Destroying everyone who disrupted them in Ibish village was just the secondary plan. Still, it's been a while since we have a large-scale operation like this one, and to think that our target was a city under the rule of a large country. It's pretty exciting. He strode forward and started to walk away from the arena. The people who were guarding the bloodstones were all dead. Great being? Tell me how powerful it is. Soda asked as he stood on top of the rubble while looking around with a wary expression. He was on the floating land and this situation was unknown to him, so he could only rely on Saya's knowledge. The sealing spell that was used was called Tactical God Sealing Spell. From its name, you could understand that this spell was designed to seal a god-level powerhouse. That's not all. That chains were called Gleipnir. Saya said to him, Gleipnir? As in that heavenly chain from Asgard. Soda frowned when he heard it. You know the history from the gods' continent. I didn't need to explain that much. I've got to say that chains weren't the real Gleipnir. It was only a prototype, as the real one was binding the world wolf Fenrir. Xianxia spoke calmly. Yeah. Soda nodded his head. He knew the world wolf from his past life. It was one of the most powerful and fiercest monster lords in the gods' continent. In the war on the gods' continent, the world wolf wreaked havoc in every corner of the land. But that chains didn't lack a powerful sealing ability. In fact, the tactical god sealing spell made it more powerful than the original Gleipnir. So the being that was sealed using these powerful seals wasn't an ordinary god. Xianxia explained to him. In other words, a powerful god-level powerhouse was going to wake up at any moment, Soda said as he saw a silhouette from the thick smoke 20 meters away from him. Yes, but you should settle your business with that person first. Xianxia said. Randolph walked out of the smoke and he looked at Soda with an amused expression. Something was wrong with Randolph. Soda couldn't feel anything from him, as if he was just an ordinary person. Soda, this is bad. Prepare yourself. This person is out of your league. Xianxia said in an alarmed tone. After a few moments, a powerful and dense black aura burst out of Randolph's body. It was overwhelming and Soda couldn't help but took a step back. Boom. The energy level was rising rapidly without stopping. He was already strong from the beginning, but now, it was something clearly above Soda's level. The liquefied mana flowed out before it spun around and turned black, visible to the naked. Crack. Suddenly, Soda felt that he couldn't move his body. This mana around him was solid and it was restricting his movements. A solidified mana. A mana capable of crushing people into dust. He gritted his teeth as he circulates his own mana, but he found that he still couldn't move under this pressure. If you can't hold it anymore, just tell me. I'll fight in your stead. Xianxia told him in a serious tone. An S rank was too strong for the current Soda and she knew it too well. That's why she prepared herself to control Soda's body and expends her energy. But doing this means that she would fall asleep once again, just like what happened on the first dukedom when she controlled his body. That's not a bad choice for her. It's better than letting Soda die. Randolph's purple hair turned black and black marking spread on his body as a small black bead formed on the center of his forehead. His eyes also turned into pitch black. Soda's eyes constricted when he saw this scene. He shivered as he recalled a certain memory from the game. That appearance, form, aura, and demeanor were all familiar to him. Also, that black crystal on the center of his forehead. In the whole universe, there were 3 crystals that have the same power as that crystal on his forehead. The first one was from the Emperor of the Red Crystal Empire. The second one was from the Jade Emperor of the Heavenly Palace. The third one was a rogue god from the ruined desolate continent. But to think that he would find the last holder of that crystal. So you're that person all along. Soda thought while suppressing the shock in his heart. The fourth holder of the luminary crystal, the Dark Emperor Zargan, one of the most powerful NPC in the game that will make an appearance in the later version at the Mars Archipelago. Everyone managed to hold the enemies. It was truly amazing as the floating land unknowingly helped them distract their opponents. Thud. Lynn fell on her knees as she exhausted her mana by casting healing spells non-stop. This was the only thing that she could do, so she decided to try her best by healing everyone. Lynn. Lumilia hurriedly went beside Lynn with a concerned look. Don't push yourself too much. Soda wouldn't like it if you collapse here, she said to Lynn in a gentle tone. But I want to help everyone. Lynn lowered her head while clenching her fists. You already tried your best and it's enough for us. Your healing spells helped a lot of people, Lumilia said. Then her subordinate approached them. She looked at the subordinate and asked, what is it? The reinforcement from the neighboring cities have arrived. The subordinate said to Lumilia in a polite tone. At the same time, the other leaders breathed a sigh of relief when they heard the news. You've heard that, Lynn. You can leave everything to us, Lumilia said as she smiled. She knew that once the reinforcement arrived, they would be able to push back the forces of the 7 deadly sins. She turned her head and saw a wave of people helping them. It was the combined forces of 3 cities. Each city sent 5,000 armed people to help Ladros City, so they have a total of 15,000 troops and 500 of this were B rank and above. It's the start of their counterattack. But not every troop was here. Half of it went to District 5 to help the nobles there. A middle-aged man with blue hair and blue eyes landed near the group. 3 people with powerful aura landed beside the man. The man with blue hair walked towards them and asked, who's the person in charge here? Father, Lumilia blurted out when she saw the man. Jimmy and the other leaders of the merchant group glanced at her before they looked at the people that arrived. They knew that these people were the leaders of the reinforcement. We all have the authority, but this person is our strategist, they said as they turned their heads to Lumilia. At the same time, the people that arrived, including her father, looked at her. Lumilia took a deep breath as she stood up and approached the leaders of the reinforcement. I'm Lumilia, the Vice Commander of the Dark Oculus Legion and the strategist of the Merchant Alliance Army. She introduced herself in a tone that wasn't too polite or rude to these people. She was one of the leaders, so she didn't need to bow her head to them. It was as if she was telling them that they were equals. Good job on holding back the enemies, Ursus said to her as he observed him. He was quite surprised to find her being a strategist of a large army like this. No, we just did everything to survive against this powerful enemy. Lumilia shook her head. She then explained what's the current situation to them, about what happened to the city and bargain getting sealed in the sky. Boom. Suddenly, the ground shook heavily. Huge cracks appeared on the ground and several people fell on it. Lumilia, Ursus, and the other leaders stopped talking as they turned their heads to look at their surroundings. What's happening? Then, powerful waves of energy swept out and it froze everyone on the spot. Ugh. Lin, who was at the corner, puked. She shivered as she felt the great energy in the atmosphere that made everyone trembled in fear. This was the first time she experienced this kind of energy. Even without trying her best, she could easily feel the immense energy below the floating land. It was terrifying and unnerving. It felt as if a giant predator was standing in front of her. The energy it possessed was like a sun as it surpassed the amount of energy of all the people in this city possessed. It's like she was comparing a small pond to a vast ocean. Randolph's current transformation was familiar to him. It made him remember a bitter incident in his past life when he encountered this man in the Mars archipelago. When he went on an expedition in that newly opened continent, he met Randolph a few times and he always got killed at that time. So he changed his name, or Zargan is his real name. Soda thought while looking at Randolph from top to bottom. Zargan, one of the 4 crystal emperors, and will be called the Dark Emperor because of the dark crystal on his forehead. The 4 crystal emperors were pinnacle existence in the game. Their power was unfathomable. The 4 crystal emperors were known throughout the whole world and countless people feared them because of their overwhelming power. Soda didn't think that one of his classmates was the Dark Emperor. It seems that taking the bead was Randolph's true motive. Randolph was looking at his body, trying to feel his new powers. He felt an overwhelming power in his body and his mana undergo a solidification. Not just that, his physical strength too increased greatly as it broke the limit. Energy and physical strength. This was a true rank S, a realm of the strong people. Ah, this power, Randolph murmured while clenching his fist. A tremendous amount of mana was gushing out of his body and he wasn't familiar with his new strength, so he couldn't properly control it. The last piece. A few more minutes and I'll be able to complete this, he thought as he glanced at Soda. That was your goal all along, Soda said as he squinted his eyes. He was still trying to force his body to move under the solid mana in the surrounding. I needed this to complete my goal, to free my brethren, Randolph responded as he took a step forward. He smiled as he glanced at the huge pit on the surface. Let me tell you something. Soda moved his eyes and looked down at the city. He could see the battle from way up here clearly than anybody. Exactly 1,245 years ago, 3 terrifying existences came out of the infamous Dark Forest. It wreaked havoc in the continent, Randolph said while looking at the huge pit with a serious expression. You're telling me that one of the existences that came out of the Dark Forest was sealed here, Soda said as he recalled the same lore of the game. This kingdom hasn't been founded at that time, so no one knew about it. I just happened to find this history while searching for this crystal, Randolph said as he touched the black crystal on his forehead. 3 creatures that came out of Dark Forest? Soda frowned deeply as he realized what's going to come. Here it comes, Randolph said deeply. Boom. A surge of best ferrum burst out of the huge pit. Everyone stopped moving as the energy spread out in the whole city. The worst scenario has come. The threat of this creature was greater than the forces of the 7 deadly sins that were in this city. Bang! A gigantic hand came out of the pit. It grabbed the edge of the pit and a huge figure emerged from it. Thick and dense energy was flowing out of the body of the figure. Row! A loud roar resounded throughout the whole sky as the figure revealed itself. Everyone saw a 700 feet tall humanoid furry creature came out of the pit. It has 3 ashen-colored horns on top of its head. Its pair of sharp fangs were glistening as it opened its mouth. The color of its fur was brown with black in its abdomen and dozens of spikes protruded on its broad back. Its hands were covered in white exoskeleton-like armor and its long tail extended from its back to the ground. It has a length of 50 feet. The humongous chains were around its neck, arms, and legs. The fake Gleipnir was still hard and it wouldn't break easily. Everyone turned pale when they saw this giant creature. Their mind went blank for a second as the creature emitted a powerful wave of energy that wiped the surrounding buildings. I have no choice but to release it. My objective is to get the crystal, but taking it means that the power source of the seal will be gone, Randolph said in a low voice. A creature from the ancient era. This creature was a monster at the peak, a monster lord, one of the 3 kings of the monster along with Sea King and Sky King, the infamous Underground King. These three creatures fought the alliance army of the Giza continent and walked between the war of demons, a monster which was hunted by humans, demis, and demons. Even the other monster lords were hunting them, yet no one managed to take them down. A monster lord appeared all of a sudden. The worst was that it wasn't an ordinary monster lord. It was at the top tier in terms of fighting ability. The Underground King was at the level of the Destruction Queen. That guy. I remember him causing a combination in this continent 1,000 years ago. I didn't know that he was sealed here. If he was sealed, maybe the other two were also sealed, but we have no idea where it is. Xianxia said to him. She was also familiar with the Underground King and the other two kings as well. We don't need to worry about it for a while. That monster lord will take some time before it broke the chains. Our problem right now is Randolph. Soda replied to her with a gloomy expression. Although Randolph wasn't at the Red Crystal Empire's Emperor level, he was still out of his league. The difference between his current strength and S rank was too large. Should he use his cards? He glanced at his system and checked the reward cards that he received in the Ibish Village's quest. Level up cards, 2. Skill level up cards, 2. One-time Best Ferrum skill cards, 1. One-time Dark Dominance skill cards, 1. 300,000 experience cards, 1. He could use the one-time Best Ferrum skill card to increase his strength. With this, he would be able to use Best Ferrum with a limited amount of time. Also, there's no side effect in using cards. He turned to Randolph and asked, "Are you still going to fight me even though you completed your goal?" There's no point in fighting Randolph as he wouldn't receive anything. It was better to go down and hunt those members of the 7 deadly sins. He would receive a lot of rewards that way. I wanted to leave this place too, but the extraction isn't complete, so I have no choice but to stay here. So I'm going to fight you to pass time. Randolph paused for a moment and said, "Still, you haven't lost your will to fight. It seems that you've still got some ace in your sleeve." "Oh? Now that we talked about it, I recall that every time you fought someone above your level you always drunk monster potion. Don't tell me, you've still got a monster potion." Soda didn't reply to him. He closed his eyes and heard the cry of the souls. There's no need to hold back. Let me use the souls of people that died. He thought. There's a monster lord below you. That level of monster would sense you if you absorb the soul of the dead people here. Xianxia said hurriedly. She didn't recommend this choice. It was risky to show this ability in front of a creature that reached that level, but that monster lord would focus on breaking the chains. Soda replied as he opened his eyes and thousands of souls went towards him. In just a few seconds, he reached the limit of the souls that he could gather. Harvester of the soul. Soul collected, left piece, 1,800 1,800. He used it to increase his intelligence attribute by 10. Then, he saw the souls filling up his earring once again. Harvester of the soul. Soul collected, left piece, 1,900 1,900. Once again, he used it in his intelligence attribute. He only stopped after increasing his intelligence by 50. He checked his stats and nodded silently. Intelligence, 777 827. This was just his base stats. The added stats of his equipment wasn't included in this. If he reached 1,000 base intelligence, his spell power and damage would increase by 1% for every 100 base stat of intelligence. Just a little bit more and he will reach this threshold. Suddenly, he heard Randolph's voice. "Are you done contemplating whether to run or use your ace?" Randolph asked. He just wanted to fight Soda, not kill him. He doesn't want to kill anyone in this school. His order was the reason why the traitors didn't kill any students of the Ladro Institute. Although he sounded hypocrite, he still didn't want to do it. He could accept it even if everyone blamed him for releasing the Underground King. No, he decided to become hypocrite. Even if he died in the end, he would accept it as long as he made a place the other homunculus could call home. "Yeah," Soda replied as he checked the souls that he gathered. Harvester of the soul. Soul collected, left piece, 2, 300 halves, 300. This was enough for his left piece. It was the right piece's time to collect the souls. Harvester of the soul. Soul collected, right piece, 251 400. He continued to gather souls until the soul requirements became 1,300. This was equal to 100 attribute points, making his intelligence 927 points. Also, he couldn't gather all the souls in this place. The range of this skill was limited, so he couldn't collect everything in this huge city. Plus, he was in the sky. He was lucky that there were souls here. "You've done it now, Soda. There's no turning back. I could only hope that Monster Lord wouldn't notice it, or there's no other god level in this place." Xianxia said to him. "It's better than you controlling my body and falling asleep for a few months." Soda replied to her as a smile formed on his face. "I needed your knowledge and skills. You said that you're going to train me, right? So why do you want to fall asleep eagerly? Are you done? I'm going to attack you if you wouldn't drink a monster potion," Randolph said as his mana compressed on his body. He was about to attack Soda when he sensed a presence around them. He frowned as he looked around with a wary expression. Soda was confused when he saw Randolph stopped. He already felt that Randolph was going to attack him, but something changed. Is there other people here aside from the two of us? He thought as he squinted his eyes. Hey, you people really did a good job hiding from my perception, but my perception was upgraded the moment I've become shrank. Randolph chuckled as he waved his hand and a flash of mana flew towards the rocky area 50 meters away from him. Boom. The place exploded and several figures revealed themselves. Swoosh. 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 The figures landed on the ground as they surrounded Randolph and Soda. These people, the 7 circle officers that Teacher Bargain fought. Soda recognized the figures when he observed them. It was hard as some of their limbs were missing and their body was full of burn marks. It was clearly the price they had to pay if they wanted to seal Teacher Bargain. Although they succeeded, their situation was so bad as they could die at any moment. TSK. I didn't expect that a mere S rank like you to detect us. I wouldn't want to fight in my current condition, but it can't be helped, Yevon said as he glanced at Randolph. Oi. Don't expect for me to let you go just because of your condition. You dare to sneak on me, so I will kill you, Randolph said in a cold tone. You're the one who's sneaking behind us. To think that some nobody would plan to release a sealed monster lord also. That crystal in your forehead, Yevon said as he narrowed his eyes. Didn't expect to see a luminary crystal here. Randolph glanced at Soda and said, let's postpone our fight. I'll just kill these people before we continue our fight. Hey. We're going to continue. Soda looked at Randolph with a blank expression. You're going to kill us? You alone? Despite my condition, I'm still a hero rank, you know? Yevon laughed as if he heard the funniest joke. Randolph didn't say anything as he simply charged at them. They were hero rank, but the damage that Teacher Bargain dealt to them was so high that they couldn't even cast a spell or skill. Also, using a sealing ability like that, he knew that they must have paid the price for using that powerful sealing ability. Despite all that, they still have the power to contend against an S rank like Randolph. Bang. 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 Randolph didn't hold back as he launched powerful spells and skills at the 7 circle officers. Soda observed the battle and noticed that one of the 7 circle officers was guarding him. 1. And Randolph are fighting 5 heavily injured 7 circle officers, so the total is 6. 7 circle officers are equal to 30 skill points and 90 free attribute points. A wide grin formed on his face as he looked at the 7 circle officer. This was once in a lifetime opportunity. He wouldn't find another chance like this to kill them. Randolph, let's make a deal. Let me deal the finishing blow to them. I wanted to kill them for attacking this city. In exchange, I will fight you later as long as you want. You're saying that we'll fight together. Randolph turned to Soda. Yes, that's the gist of it, but let me handle the finishing blow. I wanted to kill them with my own hands. Soda nodded with a smile. Sure. It's more interesting that way. Randolph smirked as he agreed to Soda's condition. You're going to help your enemy, Yevon said as he glanced at Soda. If you stay out of this, I'll let you leave this place. Although Soda was a B rank that doesn't even liquefy his mana, he could feel that the aura around him was many times stronger than an ordinary B rank. He didn't know that it was thanks to possession skill that Soda could have this powerful energy. It will be bad if he joined forces with this man. If I'm at my peak, I could easily handle a mere B rank, but with my current situation, it will be hard. Yevon thought. He hasn't recovered from his fight with Bargain. He couldn't use his burned right arm and he didn't have any mana left in his body. The only thing he could count on was his physical strength. He was more worried about his comrades who were a pure mage. 80% of their power comes from their spells, so if they couldn't use it, even a low rank opponent could handle them. Also, their orange grade was gone. Bargain turned it into ashes. If an SS rank appeared here, then they wouldn't be able to fight back, but luckily their opponents were just a B rank and S rank. They could handle it to some degree despite their condition. Nope, I will not leave this place. How could I leave an injured 7 circle officer here? Soda said with a wide grin on his face. Yevon looked at his comrades and asked one person to handle Soda while he and the remaining 5 will fight Randolph. Soda, are you about this? Despite their condition, they were still a hero rank powerhouse. Randolph asked one more time. You don't need to worry about me. You're clearly underestimating me, Soda said as he charged towards his opponent. His opponent this time was a mage. A man with average build and black hair, but most of his lower body was burned. Swoosh. Soda arrived in front of the mage before he slashed his sword horizontally. His sword was dark grade weapon while his opponent didn't have a single weapon and couldn't use mana. Plus, he didn't have a mana to protect his body, so he didn't have a way to block a dark grade weapon unless his class was a shielder or other class that was based on toughening one's flesh. The mage raised his hand to block Soda's sword. Don't underestimate my sword, Soda thought as he slashed his sword. Swoosh. A large cut appeared on the mage's hand. The sword almost cut his hand. He didn't expect that the sword was so sharp that it could cut the flesh of a hero rank. Arg! He groaned in pain as he tried to move away, but Sota chased after him and kept slashing his sword. Swoosh! 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 The mage didn't dare to use his body to block the sword. Sota was weak, but the sword was unusually sharp. Much sharper than the orange grade sword that he knew. Oh? They started fighting. Let me start it too, Randolph said as he turned to nWhen. He gathered his mana and launched himself at their group. Swoosh! nWhen clenched his fist and threw a punch. Bang! Both of their fists collided, causing a powerful shockwave in the surrounding. Then, 3 people appeared beside Randolph. Only 3? It means that Sota was fighting 2 opponents right now. Randolph raised his eyebrows when he saw that there were only 3 people beside him, but when he thought about how Sota handled his opponent, it felt natural to send one more. The 3 people attacked him at the same time. Randolph moved his body side by side as he avoided all the punches of his opponents. Swoosh! 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 The only thing that his opponent could do was fight him using their brute strength. Close combat battle was what they want. It's impossible for them to fight a long-range battle. They didn't have a weapon for long range or mana to shoot beams. Still, he couldn't underestimate the power of hero rank even if they were gravely injured and couldn't fight properly. Randolph shifted his body to the side as a fist passed in front of his face. He stretched out his hand and grabbed it. Then, he used his other hand to shoot condensed mana on the body of his opponent. Bang! The 7-circle officer flew and crashed on the piles of rocks. He wanted to chase his opponent, but nWhen and the other 2 7-circle officers blocked his way. Bang! 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 Randolph exchanged his speed blows to his opponents. He was shocked that a gravely injured person could still keep up with him. The hero rank was really a powerful realm. This person has experience in close combat. nWhen thought as he was surprised that Randolph's barehanded combat skill could rival his. Without using spells and combat art, just pure combat skill. This person wasn't below him. Just how did this brat trained before to mulot this much pure skill? Swoosh! 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 Randolph jumped away and gathered his mana. Decaying earth wave. nWhen's eyes constricted when he saw this. Move away, he shouted as he jumped away. He knew that spell very well. That spell was a powerful tier 3 spell that corrodes anything that it touched. I couldn't kill them. Sota will deliver the finishing blow. Still, I don't think I'll be able to kill these 4 people on my own. Randolph thought as he narrowed his eyes. If there were only 1 gravely injured person, then he could somehow handle it, but 4 of them. It was impossible for him. At the best, he could tie them down using his full strength. Bang! 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 Sota was passively defending himself against the attack of his 2 opponents. Suddenly, he vanished and the 2 7-circle officers missed their attacks. Swoosh! They quickly turned around and saw Sota 20 meters away from them. They didn't need to think about what to do as they rushed towards him. They didn't want to give him a time to counterattack. Swoosh! Sota gritted his teeth as his 2 opponents arrived in front of him. A hero rank at peak could easily traverse 500 meters in just a second. 20 meters was nothing for them. The fists of the 2 7-circle officers landed on his body. He didn't try to avoid it because he knew that he wouldn't be able to create a chance if he avoided it. He gritted his teeth as he felt his ribs being crushed, even though most of the damage was received by Shadow Cloak skill. He silently cast his spells. Shadow Bind. Gravitational Ball. Shadow Ball. Fist-sized black balls formed on his back and another set of black balls scattered around as the black tentacles rose from the ground. Boom. The gravity in the whole area was warped and it twisted the place. The 2 7-circle officers frowned as they felt the gravity trying to crush their bodies. Sota jumped away as dozens of tentacles rushed towards the 2 people. He then raised his hand and used his skill card. One-time Dark Dominance skill card activated. A gigantic black ball that has a diameter of 3 meters formed above Sota. This was the spell that Fells used to him when they fought in the Ibish village. A high-level tier 3 spell. He received 10 free attribute points and 8 skill points from breaking the barrier device. He also received 8 free attribute points and 4 skill points for helping President Mia by defeating Bestseller. He used the 18 free attribute points in his intelligence attribute, making it 945. He then used his 12 remaining points to level up his Night Overlord's aura to level 6. Boom. The black aura around him grew stronger. It will strengthen his dark attribute spells and combat arts every time he used this aura to use his skill. Sota narrowed his eyes as he glanced at the fight between Randolph and the 7-circle officers. He knew that he wouldn't be able to catch his opponents off guard, but Randolph's opponents were possible. Boom. The 2 7-circle officers broke through the gravity field and tentacles as they quickly rushed towards him. I know what to do. I'll quickly kill one of Randolph's opponents. He thought as he continued to move away while the 2 were chasing him. After he gained some distance away from Randolph's fight, he quickly turned around and faced his opponents. "Let me do this," Sota said as his eyes turned red. "Soul Blood mode."